I've talked about anything on YouTube on this channel. First of all, I want to say season's greetings to everyone. I know that different people may have different difficulties right now in their lives, whether it's your work not working or it is that, you may have been down or some of your members of the family may have passed away because of COVID, or it could be that you can't get anything to eat and you have to wait and line up in long lines just to get food. Whatever your situation this winter, I pray that it'll ease up for you. This is my hope and prayer for you. So we're going to talk about a spoiler review of Wonder Woman 84. Okay, so you will see that I posted up 3 videos, one on the Snyder Cut, and 2 other videos that had to do with Wonder Woman 84. It was just my immediate impression of the movie. And I also went with fellow countryman Damien Anton Vincent. So he gave his impression of the movie. And, this is a movie that it's sort of a fantasy drama adventure movie. That's what it really is. And it's very simplified in how it approaches telling the story. First of all, I would say that the movie Wonder Woman, to me, is a better movie than this movie. Right? Those of you who've seen the movie, okay. Those of you who've seen Wonder Woman, you would know. You would know that this movie involves 3 characters and their wishes. It revolved around something called the Wish Stone. This Wish Stone was created by an evil god that granted wishes in exchange for taking something from the person who wished. It was a lie inbuilt in it. It was deceptive. And so the theme of the movie was that acquiring things through deception is never profitable in the end. Even though you receive something, you lose something in exchange for it. And that a true warrior for love and for peace and for these qualities, because it was basically about qualities. This movie is about morals. In order to build character, one must do it properly and appropriately. And everything doesn't come overnight. Things don't come immediately. And the Wish Stone was like a cheat sheet. It gave people what they desired, what they thought they needed, but instantaneously. So this is the center of this movie. This is the theme of the movie. And the movie literally follows the way in which people made movies in the 80s. It's literally constructed in that way. And some of the techniques are used from that which was used in the 80s. And literally, they make the mistakes, they replicate the mistakes that were made in the 80s as well. So there's a lot of humorous things in there. It's very, very cheesy. But then again, 80s films were very cheesy films. It has nothing to do with George Orwell's 1984. None whatsoever. Maybe there's a broad theme, as in, the access to power and manipulation of people, but it's nothing like that. Um, it's very simplistic in design. The story, however, is interesting because it premises on the fact that George Maxwell Lord, he himself becomes, his wish is that he becomes the wish stone, and he becomes the wish stone. Now, there is a character that's introduced into the movie who is an Amazon who, in interest of her moral character to save the Amazons who were retreating away from mankind, she actually stood up to fight mankind. She was bestowed armor of the gods, and that allowed her to fend off the armies of mankind, at least for a period of time, to allow the Amazons to escape. She herself sacrificing herself in the process. She would not be able to be with the Amazons. This person was revealed at the end of the movie to have survived, and she was walking the earth, and Lynda Carter embodied that character. So that's interesting that Lynda Carter is still walking around. There's another Wonder Woman walking around the earth. And so now what's interesting about Wonder Woman is still, up to this point, no one has called her Wonder Woman in the movie. So, as much as it's called Wonder Woman 84, she's never called Wonder Woman in the movie, which is very consistent with the first movie. Also, there were a number of things that were consistent with the first movie as well, that I saw in this second iteration of Wonder Woman. But Patty Jenkins really went like completely Richard Donner. Like, she went full on Richard Donner. Like, she gets 100% tribute to Richard Donner, just the way how he shot things, the angles in which he shot things, scenes from his movie. She like literally took it and readapted it. I don't know if that had to do something with Jeff Johns, helping to sort of reinvent that, because Jeff Johns is a strong Donner fan himself, as Kevin Feige, and as Damian Anton Vincent so correctly said, he saw Marvel-like stuff in there, and I absolutely saw it too. Now, the score, I think a lot of people commented on this. The score by Hans Zimmer was brilliant. In fact, it was able to sort of bring out certain aspects of emotion. Now, I gotta admit that the previous composer for Wonder Woman also did an exceptionally great job, especially with the No Man's Land scene. There was, like, you could see fake background screen when Wonder Woman was flying, because Wonder Woman eventually started flying. This is after she revoked her wish. She decided to unwish a wish, if you want to call it that. And as a result of that, she started getting back her powers, and she flew. Now, she flew. There's a lot to this, but suffice it to say, by her walking the straight and narrow and recalling certain things, because Chris Pine plays a reincarnation of the spirit of Steve Trevor inside of some arbitrary person. Okay. So, but Diana, what you will see is us seeing Steve Trevor in this person who's behaving like Steve Trevor, and Diana can only see Steve Trevor. So our eyes are seeing Steve Trevor, even though it's a completely different person. It's an arbitrary person that's out there that is now behaving like Steve Trevor, sort of like Ghost, where somebody gets possessed or whatever. Okay, so now there's a lot of things I want to say, but that I sort of spoke on the core thing, what the movie was about. I spoke on the contrast of, instead of cheating, being a true warrior, a true person, a true character-built person that's molded and shaped. And why that's relevant is because the opening scene of Wonder Woman 84, which was brilliantly done, I really enjoyed it. And again, it's a connection for children. This is another thing I need to say. So the movie's very cheesy, but the movie was actually made, I could see, for children. Like I see Patty Jenkins trying to reach that again, that broad range, um, that broad scope of audience. So this was really a movie for, I guess she was trying to appeal to families. And so the opening scene of Wonder Woman 84 really is quite pertinent. I hear a lot of people say it's not relevant to the story. And I always I was trying to explain to people what I think the intention of the director was. Um, so I'll try and go through this, with as much care as I can, because this video could get ridiculously long if I don't watch myself. So let me just go through this very important part. The opening scene, first of all, was brilliantly done. I really enjoyed it. It was a beautiful scene, expanded Themyscira, young Diana learning that you can't cheat, you can't take shortcuts to win. And that was the lesson that you saw the head of the commanding forces speaking to Diana, and she tells us this in the opening part. You know, success is not what you think it is. And purposefully, I know these obstructions were put in place to see if Diana would fall for them, and she fell for it, and she chose to cheat. And so, choosing to cheat, she did not get the last flag that she was supposed to get. She didn't go through a certain test, let's say. As a result of that, she didn't have all the flags. And as a result of that, Antiope, I think it is, snatched her from going to the final thing and being ahead of everyone and winning the race. To which Diana didn't understand, because obviously she did not know that she missed a step. And she didn't know also that because she missed that step, that everyone could see the step she missed. And she felt that she was being robbed of winning, not understanding that she cheated. And they don't reward that. And there's a process. You have to go through every step of the process. So that was very instructive in the beginning. And I believe it was the preface for the entire movie. Now, having said that, and I got to say that whole opening part was very grounded, very realistic, even though it's fantasy, even though they're doing some extraordinary things. It was very grounded, and just everything from the swimming to the riding of the horses to the climbing of stuff. It was just beautiful, very grounded, very realistic, even though it's in fantasy. But that tone is not kept for this particular movie, because Patty Jenkins is about to do some really wacky, crazy shit in this movie. And she has to, in the second scene, suspend your reality as far as can. So she's flexing your reality way out there. And the stuff, she just goes full on Richard Donner. She goes ham Richard Donner, okay? And there's all these outlandish, over-dramatized characters. It's in the mall scene and the bank scene. It just gets over-dramatized and over-dramatic, melodramatic, as they say. And I was just cracking up. To me, it was hilarious, because I knew what they were doing. I knew what they were trying to do. I could smell the cheese from a mile away. And I thought about 80s movies and the campy 80s movies, and not just Superman 84, but even Wonder Woman was wacky. Bionic Man with the weird sounds. The guy's running in slow motion and stuff. It's just wacky. The 80s were wacky. And just watching how, and she even shot it with the wackiness involved in it. And like, she was unapologetically wacky and cheesy. And like, Patty just went full on Richard Donner, wacky, cheesy. And that mall scene, which Damien Anton Vincent, he doesn't really like. For me, it was just hilarious. I understood that it was cheesy. The whole film was cheesy, okay? But they had to do that because there was just moments in that movie where you have to totally suspend your belief. You just have to. Because one, you got something called a wish stone in the movie, and the wish stone is a cheat sheet, right? It's like Diana not skipping a whole bunch of steps of development to be able to cheat and win a race. And this is what a lot of people would love to do. Sometimes we wish we could, certain things could happen, right? But everything has consequences, right? So anyway, so what happens eventually is that scene is to show Diana as a hero. And she sweeps in and she saves the day. And the music and everything fills in with that. But what she does, which is very important to BVS, which I was listening to, what was it, Cinema Blend, and the guy who wrote the book, Release the Snyder Cut, he was saying that, Diana walking away from mankind in BVS was not consistent with this movie, but this movie is absolutely consistent because, as I said before, in this movie, Diana's Diana. She's not known as Wonder Woman, and no one really knows her. Like, things happen, but nobody speaks about it. Like, she comes through, does her thing like Robin Hood, and gets out of there, and tries not to get any camera footage of it. She's in, she's out, she's gone, right? And even though witnesses kind of describe her, they don't really know who she is. Now, what's interesting about this is that in this particular movie, that's consistent with BVS. Now, Diana's doing things, but she's doing it under the cloak of anonymity. Nobody knows she's Wonder Woman, right? It makes for sense because if she's called Wonder Woman, that makes sense too because it's a wonder, right? It's like, who is this woman, right? Which was said a lot in the very first Wonder Woman movie, and in the second Wonder Woman movie, which is BVS, or the first one, whichever you want to call it. It's the same thing. It's like, is she with you? It's like, you didn't wonder about her since Wonder Woman, right? And in this movie, it's no different. So in this movie, she's still living under, she has no alias, nothing. People don't know who she really is. They don't know how to describe her. And so she's operating like that still, so many years after World War I. And in World War I, she was willing to let herself and her name and who she was be known by the world. She could say, I'm Diana, or whatever, or Themyscira. She doesn't do that anymore, right? She's gone wildly to the world. But anyway, so that's consistent with BVS. She's sort of not been the head of mankind. She just is there when necessary. Now, having said that, after going through that wacky first scene, we see Diana is alone. She's a loner. That's again consistent with BVS. Diana's this loner. However, it's also consistent with Justice League. Justice League, we find out that Diana's still on her own, and she's still a loner. And Justice League tries to give an explanation that because Steve Trevor died, she could never really step out of the shadows because she was afraid that other people would die around. It was Justice League. In Batman v Superman, she speaks in a way because of all the years she's been with mankind, and she's not quite optimistic about mankind joining together, banding together to fight any sort of challenge. She's skeptical about that. And in this movie, to some degree, it sort of bears credence to BVS on that note. What I mean by that is, In this movie, we see the potential of human beings to be corrupted by greed, selfishness, and it can be done through wishes and power. Even though the lasso of truth is not used to pull truth out of people, Diana is able to explain an extension of the explanation of the lasso of truth is that it can also show people the truth. What a lot of people didn't understand at the end of the movie was that Diana wasn't influencing Maxwell Lord through herself, nor the people. She was influencing Maxwell Lord. The lasso of truth was showing Maxwell Lord the future and the truth. Remember, Maxwell Lord had the wish stone, or was the wish stone, but that was giving lies. It was deceptive. So to counteract that, the lasso of truth, right? So the lasso of truth was invoking truth on Maxwell Lord, and he saw the truth. And he saw his son, and he saw his son wanted him and loved him and wanted to be with him. And he saw how his son was in jeopardy because the whole place was going to blow up to hell, and with the nuclear blast and the missiles and stuff. And so he revoked his wish. Diana, through the lasso of truth, was speaking to all the people as Maxwell Lord broadcast his signal. Remember, Diana's lasso of truth, the same thing. If it gets in contact with you, you can see the truth as well as it can elicit the truth from you. And in this case, that's what it was used for. Wasn't quite sure how she got the lasso of truth in contact with Maxwell Lord and touched. Maybe she did it and then she fell back. Whatever. But the point is, hey, the truth, when people were confronted with the truth, they were able to revoke their wishes. And by revoking their wishes, some things went back to normal. I noticed everything didn't go back to normal. But whatever their wish was, it returned to whence it came. And therefore, they were sort of outside of that wish, which was very interesting. But what's important about it is the bottom line, the punchline. Again, trying to get things quickly, trying to get things through deception, lies. It's very relevant to our time now because a lot of people play political games and there's a lot of deception out there. So it's very relevant, and people just want to get by, by standing over people. We need to work together, people. We need to work together to help one another, right? I think because of that, I think this film is very relevant to today. So Diana herself didn't influence Maxwell Lord. Maxwell Lord saw the truth for himself, and Diana was just, because she's in contact with Maxwell Lord, could see it. All right. Leroy Kong says, I really enjoyed Wonder Woman 84, already added to my top 82 best movies. Great live. Thank you very much, Leroy. So anyway, back to what I was saying about Wonder Woman 84. I think that Wonder Woman 84, so why this is important at the end of the movie. Yes, I saw she started flying. She started gliding on the air, and we saw her lassoing, I guess, clouds or something. I don't know what she was lassoing. She was lassoing a plane at first. And she started gliding on the air because of something that she remembered Steve Trevor talking about in terms of flying, what flying was like. And so she started gliding through the air and stuff like that. And then she started taking flight, and it was, again, it's not bad. There was nothing bad about it per se, but it just wasn't, I don't think it was well executed. But then again, she, Patty Jenkins continuously was moving along the lines of a Richard Donner sort of visualization, or Richard Donner sort of way of shooting with the camera and everything. Sometimes the fake background and stuff. It's very Richard Donnerish. She was really Richard Donner into it, and I thought that kind of it really for me, it hurt the movie somewhat and the storytelling, even though I was more interested in the story and what it was offering. To me, it hurt visually. It made me laugh. A lot of times I started laughing because of the cheesiness of the situation and just the weirdness of the shots duplicating what Richard Donner did. And I'm pretty sure Patty Jenkins somewhat was poking fun of her own work, kind of like how James Wan poked some fun off of Aquaman. Um, so I think that's what's happening. Lyric says fans are divided over this movie. Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Wonder Woman, the very first Wonder Woman movie was much better than this movie, in my opinion. Again, you have to understand what kind of audience you have. So different people will have different tastes in movies. Me, I'm more of a realist, so I like more realistically grounded movies. And some of the action scenes in this movie were very unrealistic. But they are in keeping with how 80s movie making was at the time. It was quite ridiculous. So, you kind of understand that to be what it is. But Patty Jenkins did not, she actually didn't want the stunt coordinators and the action team that Zack Snyder had allowed her to use in the original Wonder Woman movie. She chose to do something different. And I mean, it is what it is. I mean, she was working also with Jeff Johns, and Jeff Johns sort of wrote the story, and the story's it's not bad. It's just not great. It's not a great story. Um, but I like certain aspects of the story, which was pretty unique. But the movie, for me, I can only speak for myself. The movie, for me, is not, you know, it's not a movie. There was a moment though in the movie. There were certain moments in the movie because Maxwell, of course, Maxwell's heart was his son. Even though, and I think a lot of people miss this part, the son's mother, Maxwell Lord's, I guess, wife or significant other used to be his ex maybe. She was with several different men, so she had a lot of guys around her. So the little boy, when he had his father, and his father was trying to work hard at sincerely, helping people. But as you know, he got power hungry, and of course he was getting ill from the stone because the stone was taking his health. And so he tried to get all the energy off of people, suck people dry of their energy and their souls so that he could be healthy. And he was getting power hungry and he was getting healthier because he had to get more souls, more people, almost like the devil. So it was an interesting story. I didn't realize that the stone, the the wish stone, no one knew where it came from, and then they found out it came from this certain old Mayan civilization that got wiped out from the stone, from using the stone. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Lord of the Rings. Where you get the ring, you get the power, blah, 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 blah. It also reminds me of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man to some degree, where Spider-Man loses his powers, and Superman 2, where Superman loses his powers, and that sort of thing. It's something like that. Now, here's some outstanding questions that you may ask. You may say, well, since uh, Maxwell Lord revoked the Wish Stone, revoked uh, being the Wish Stone, what happened to the Wish Stone? That's a great question, right? Where is the Wish Stone? Did it go back to the Mayan place, wherever it came from, or what happened to it? It's a great question. Another great question would be, and it's pretty outstanding, I think, is that so most of the people revoked their wishes. Okay. My question is, how many of those wishes were revoked? What I mean by that is, for example, Cheetah had made 2 wishes. The first one was being an apex predator, and the second wish the first wish, sorry, was that she would be like uh, Diana, and the second wish was that she would be an apex predator. The second wish that she was apex predator, we clearly saw, was revoked. The first wish, did she still hold on to that? Because she lost her humanity, she lost her kindness and so on by accepting the wishes or making the wishes that she made. Because when you make a wish with this stone, it's something for something. You're not going to get something for nothing, which is very much like how deceivers are working in this world. So, as with all things in life, the question that lies is, this movie asks a couple questions. One is, are you going to cut corners to try and get your situation to be better? Do you care about other people's lives when you try to better your own? Are you willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get where you need to go? Or are you willing to sacrifice yourself so that others can benefit, which is the reverse, the flip side of that? So that's what the story's sort of talking about. It's got some mores, it's got some morals. And it has a unique way of going about dealing with the problems that need to be solved in the story. Because the solution that was thought to be the solution in the story was that Maxwell Lord needed to be killed in order for the wish stone to be reversed. But we now know that Maxwell Lord could have just reversed his wish, and that would just reverse everything, which he did, ultimately, in the end. But the movie still left open-ended. You know, Maxwell's talking to his son. His son says, "It doesn't matter how good or bad you are. I love you." You know, he talked to the what we call the unconditional love, right? Leroy Kong says, "I feel the wish stone is hidden somewhere. Maybe, I don't know." Leroy Kong says, "Diana and Steve are true heroes." Steve was never existed. Steve never existed. It was the other guy, the neighbor guy, who we don't even know his name. Diana never even asked him his name. Who Diana was interacting with all the time. She just saw Steve in him. And then it's also interesting that you know, the question is, did Diana go on to date and meet other people instead of just Steve? Did she move on? You could see that she had some thoughts about it, which was very interesting. Then then we had you know, the world was going to chaotic, crazy place. You know what I mean? There was certain chords that Hans Zimmer played. You know, the first time Diana sees Steve, and then the time when she has to let him go, where I guess a tear or so would want to come from your eye, because again, it's just how brilliantly Hans Zimmer plays his music. You know, I thought that the movie more or less was an adventure. It carried us from America to Egypt, and from Egypt back to America, you know. So you had different sceneries, kind of like Wonder Woman. The first Wonder Woman movie was an adventure movie. Sort of reminds me also of Aquaman to some degree. Aquaman was an adventure movie. But I thought that this particular movie, as again, simple storyline, like Aquaman, but I thought the take-home message was much more interesting. Again, no set of killing of people at the end of the movie. So I thought that was also pretty novel. But I think that how do I say this? It's Patty Jenkins. This is what she wanted, so she got that. But I get that almost all the movies since Aquaman, or even since Justice League, all these movies feel kind of Marvelized. They feel kind of, even Harley Quinn movie, which was supposed to be rated R. The only movie I thought that was not Marvelized out of the whole set, whether it's Shazam or Aquaman, Justice League, or um, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman, or Shazam, or even Harley Quinn's the Harley Quinn movie. I felt they were all sort of a hodgepodge of sort of marvelized sort of way, very campy, trying to always have humor in them movies. And I don't know if that works. I don't know if that works. I think there's a difference, and this is my criticism that I would speak to Patty Jenkins. I think there's a difference between a sincerity in a movie that's sincere, and like what happened with Wonder Woman movie. That it wasn't campy. It wasn't campy nonstop. And even the serious moments in Wonder Woman, which were great, would be interspersed with this really just suspension of reality, ridiculous campiness to it, and I think in her trying to stay true to Richard Donner, she lost some of the original Wonder Woman in that process, in trying to go all the way Richard Donner on everybody. And I think that the what the original Wonder Woman movie was not necessarily translated into this. And we know it was a risk Patty Jenkins was taking, but I could see how Patty Jenkins, just by watching this movie, and I hate to say it, but I gotta say it, that she was in alignment with what Jeff Johns and John Berg and Joss Whedon were trying to do, which is marvelize a DC franchise. I just get that feeling just watching the Wonder Woman movie. You could see that she wanted to stay true at a certain point to what the opening scene of that Wonder Woman movie was. Because I'm going to say, Wonder Woman 84 opens beautifully. Beautifully. It's wonderful. But then that second scene, I understand why it's there. It's there to create, to set the tone so that when they dial it back, because they dialed it back throughout the movie, there was still wackiness, but they dialed it back through the movie. But they needed to expand your mind to how wacky this movie could possibly be, so that when wacky things happen, and because it's a fantasy movie, and again, the wackiness also for kids. So I think that's why it was as wacky as it was initially, to kind of break you into the wackiness, so that when the wackiness happens in spots throughout the movie, you're not too perturbed. And then they wanted to do something that was horrific, because nuclear bombs being fired off, and we're talking about people wishing each other evil, like I wish you die, and the person is dying on dying on them, and stuff like that. You have to suspend reality, otherwise these things can be very horrific. They can be, so the it was sort of spoofed upon, but it's not really spoofed upon, because in the 80s movie, Richard Donner actually did things like that. And the world would just be going to hell. and and still at the same time, it's kind of got this funniness to it, this campiness to it, the campy go to heaven kind of thing. So I think Patty was trying to pull that off. But I think that she, well, this is my personal opinion. I mean, I'm sure she made the movie she wanted to make. But me personally, I thought that having it grounded more in a realistic base would have been better. What she started the movie with, she should have just rolled with that. She should have had confidence in that, instead of going into this 84. And I understand what she's doing. It's a period film with literally Patty Jenkins used, when she didn't have to use CGI, she wasn't using it, because she just went straight with all the utensils and the filming equipment and stuff from the 80s that Richard Donner did. You could tell she just loved Richard Donner so much, she decided to do a whole Richard Donner thing. I would say that the opening scene was beautiful. And then in certain spots of the movie, you get grounded back into reality. It's literally grounded. It's a ground. I love the invisible plane piece that Patty did, for example. The invisible, and just how she used her powers to make the aircraft invisible, was brilliant. Brilliant stuff. Okay. I really enjoyed that part of the movie. I enjoyed all of the dramatic parts of the movie where It was just dialogue. There was no action. With the action scenes, actually, the action scenes were the comical scenes mostly of the movie. There was the over the top, parts where people overact or whatever, but the action scenes were hilarious. Not gonna lie. There was a creepy moment, with Barbara, where she beat the guy. She really started to violently beat the guy who was trying to molest her, and she was just very vicious in that scene. But for the most part, the movie was very campy, very light, and cheese was everywhere, and I was just laughing at how cheesy it was. It was hilarious. So I was cracking up in the cinema. Excuse me. I was cracking up in the cinema over certain parts of the movie because it was just that cheesy. It was so cheesy. I really started laughing. It was just too cheesy for me. So some moments which were supposed to be serious moments, I was just laughing. At just the cheesiness, and usually with action scenes. And it was just super cheesy. I just think that how do I explain this to some people? When you have greater stakes in a movie, even if you're making it in somewhat humorous, the greater the stakes in a movie, which means you have to ground the movie more, makes the movie work. So, for example, they try, like they were in Two Minds. For 1 minute, Wonder Woman's underneath this truck, almost pinned underneath it, because she's riding on this piece of a piece of the truck or whatever that's on the ground. And it looks crazy. The stunt looks crazy, right? She's underneath there, and it reminds me of Speed, a Joss Whedon film, and it reminds me of the dialogue for Joss Whedon. But it reminds me of Mad Max Fury Road, the stunt that's being pulled off. And of course, Diana, she's getting weaker, right? And it's going super good. And then she kicks the truck or something. I don't know, hits something or whatever. And the truck goes careening in the air, and she's leaping up in the air behind the truck and over the truck. And I'm saying to myself, that doesn't conform to any laws of physics. So I'm cracking up over that. And excuse me, funnier things I have seen, but it's just it's just very funny to me, And back in the 80s, we would be taking this film, we would be like, this is a revolutionary film. Look how incredible this is. It's not the 80s anymore. And so I thought that Patty did a better job in tribute to Richard Donner in the first film than she tried to do in this second film. I do not know if Jeff Johns had a lot to do with the second film or what, but it was clearly Donnered out to the max. Okay, so there were other things in this movie that I thought were interesting. The evolution of Cheetah and Barbara Minerva's evolution in this movie is interesting. There are moments where I believe, she's not bumbling. You really take her seriously. The story really evolves and moves along. So I can respect. Excuse me, I am really looking at the sheep right now. But I can really respect the progression of Barbara Minerva. And this is where I think a lot of people miss the relevance of it. So let me speak on that. Barbara Minerva was relevant to the story because Barbara was one of the people who personalized not wanting to give up their wish. And we see why. Barbara is someone who is an outcast. Barbara is someone who is made fun of. She's intellectual, but she's made fun of. It's not like this trope we haven't seen before, and there's not a lot of cheese with it. But what makes it convincing is the way in which the actress humanizes this particular trope. And Barbara feels empowered, not only physically, but mentally. She feels empowered. She does not want to be denied that. And she still has that semblance of good in her, because when she finds out the ultimatum is to kill Maxwell Lord, she sides on Maxwell Lord's side as his protector. So I thought that Barbara Minerva served a role in the story. Could she have been replaced with some other character? Probably, but the point is, it brought a relevance to why Cheetah was Cheetah and why we needed to see Cheetah in this story. And I thought it was well done. I thought it was well enough done. I would have made certain personal decisions to go certain ways, but I thought for the most part it was well done. Steve Trevor was relevant to the story as well, as Diana had made a wish, which came through. And Maxwell Lord was also very relevant to the story. It was also very relevant to the story. So I think that by and large, those three major characters, which was Diana, Maxwell Lord, and Barbara Minerva, I thought they were all three relevant to the story. Of course, Steve Trevor was never really in the story because Steve Trevor never really existed. But it was just very interesting watching the interplay between Steve Trevor and Diana, and you could feel the very touching moments in the story. Again, well done by Hans Zimmer to bring the emotional impact of such things. And even make your blood crawl a little bit with Barbara Minerva, her part in the story. So it was all right. I mean, the movie was good. It was entertaining for me in ways that didn't expect it to be entertaining, in terms of, the cheesiness really caught me by surprise. I did not expect that. And there were smatters of it later on in the movie, but most of the cheese came in the beginning. So, by and large, Wonder Woman 84 is a movie about change. Change brought on by people accepting deception to get what they want. And it does sort of fit in with the political environment somewhat. Batsy stuff says, in my head, Bruce Wayne wished for his parents back and then had to renounce his wish and thought of the whole thing as a dream, a beautiful lie. Yes, at the end of the story there, as Diana's talking to Maxwell Lord, we hear the beautiful lie being played. And I like how it's an overlap again to Batman v Superman. And how Hans Zimmer crafts it together. I feel like this movie sort of is somewhat in line with what Zack Snyder was doing in his direction. And it's in line with Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, the World War One movie with Wonder Woman. So I feel like it sort of lines up, but it's just a different take on the story. It's like somebody else there's a different storyteller. Now in the first movie, Diana was the storyteller of that movie. In the second movie, Diana begins as a storyteller. But who's to say it's not some zany person like Barbara Minerva who continues the narration of the story? And so the story looks as crazy and chaotic and wacky as it looks, because it doesn't have the consistency of what Diana was telling us in the first story. It doesn't have that consistency. So maybe it's just a different person telling the story. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I think that it tries, I think, to please too many different people. It wants to say something really deep, but instead it kind of just scratches the surface of what it wanted to say. That's the story that I seem to see. So I can understand why people who love realistic takes on movies, and movies that take themselves somewhat seriously, would not really truly appreciate this movie. Especially, they probably can't get past the cheese in the beginning of the movie. There will be people who appreciate the movie because they're following the story of the movie, and then there will be other people who will appreciate the movie because they like the cheesiness of it. They like the Richard Donner-ness of it. So, to each his own, you know what I mean? Me personally, I thought the movie was cheesy. But in spite of the cheesiness, I did get the point of the movie. I was looking ahead. There's a time, because the movie's so cheesy, that you can actually predict what's going to happen at the end to some level of degree. So, but that doesn't make it a bad movie, okay? Would I say this movie's a bad movie? No, it's not a bad movie, but it's not a great movie. It's just it's a good movie, you know? It was nice living the experience of the movie. When it got serious, I thought I got serious. How very serious we really were, I'm not too sure. But that's what I got for now. I'm Christ, I am Disciple. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I need to go take a rest, drink some water, rehydrate, and all that. But I do wish you guys a good night. And remember, nothing good comes from lies. So let's try and keep it 100 with ourselves and with others. And it's always sometimes good to give up something you wish for something better. W. Mir says, Zack Snyder's Justice League will break records. No doubt about it, my friend. No doubt about it. I'm looking forward to that movie a lot. I think Warner Brothers is probably going to go in a different direction if Zack Snyder's Justice League kills it. You know, in terms of subscription on HBO Max, etc. And hopefully it comes down to my country. By the way, I should probably let Chris Wong be notified that there is an IMAX theater in my country and it's playing on IMAX right now, Wonder Woman 84. So not a lot of people are attending the cinemas still. This COVID thing should end somewhere around summer, but it was really good. I had a blast. For those of you who haven't watched the videos with me and Damien, you can watch the videos before this live stream. They're on my channel, so you can check them out. There's 3 videos. I hope you guys have a good night. W. Mir is saying, and I quote, on HBO Max, nice. I got to get out of here. I am Christ, I am Disciple. Anson Phillip is my name. I'm going to catch you guys later. Can't wait for March 2021. I actually got a Release the Snyder Cut jersey from Damon. So that's really good, man. Shout out to you, W. Mir. It's great to see you too, brother. I'll catch you guys later, hopefully sooner than later.
Peace.